Hi, Emily Baker here with Erin Simons with the Mega Listing Agent. And Erin, we are going to talk about something so relevant today, right? Which is pricing expectations with our listings.
Yes, this is the key to getting the sellers to understand what the market's telling them, such that they will make the price adjustment needed without the battle, without the heartache, without all the tears. We're going to make it super simple, black and white. Does that sound good?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think what we've got to understand as agents in this market right now is it can sometimes feel like it's us versus the seller, right? And it's the seller and us against the market. And how do we frame that such that authorship is ownership, as we always say, right? They author the decision of making the best decision when it comes to being competitive in pricing.
Yeah, and where agents struggle is they approach the conversation around I think, I feel, maybe we should do this instead of approaching it as a scientific equation, which it
Yep.
is, right? We know that NAR has been researching this and studying it to the point where NAR is very clear. You've all seen the statistic that it's 2 weeks or 10 showings.
Yep.
After 2 weeks or 10 showings, the market has spoken, correct? Yet for some sellers, that's not enough. They need a
Mhm.
little bit more of a story, around those 2 weeks to get them to the point of, okay, yes, I understand that's what the market's telling us. Yet it is an equation and it never fails. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
So I think we first have to remember that when we're setting this expectation around what we want to see to know that we're priced right or not, we have to remind the sellers that we know on the marketing side what we do works. So that
Yep.
when we put a home on the market, the only thing we're testing is the price. So we know what we do on the marketing side works. When you put your home on the market, the only thing we're testing is the price. And according to NAR, we'll know in the first 2 weeks, based on the feedback and the showings, exactly how we're priced compared to the market. The market's going to tell us.
That's
Now,
right.
before we get into those metrics on what the market's going to tell us, 2 weeks, you sometimes need to be able to share with the seller why it only takes 2 weeks. Would you agree?
100%.
Right? Some sellers, they think it takes more time, especially if it's a seller who hasn't been on the market in a long time. Maybe they're, I don't know, they're a little bit more mature. It's been 30 years. Last time they bought a house, or sold a house, it was, newspapers were the best way to market a home. But Emily, here's the reality. In today's market, when we list a property on the MLS and it gets syndicated out to the, thousands of portals out there, would you agree that that home is fully exposed within the first 24 to 48 hours?
Yes.
Listen, every buyer who's in the market in 24 to 48 hours, they will see that home digitally, whether their agent set them up on a search, whether on one of the websites, right? Whether they got it in their email, they're going to know about the home almost instantaneously, right?
Yep.
Now, it might take them a week, maybe two, in order to make it through the property physically. But after those 2 weeks, is it safe to say that every buyer who's in the market will have seen it, they will have known about it, and they made a judgment?
Yes.
So sometimes we've got to slow down for a second and explain to the sellers why it's 2 weeks. And that's the answer. Because at any moment in time, there's a pool of buyers and they're going to see it almost instantaneously digitally. And yet, physically, it might take 1, maybe 2 weeks at the most for them to all get through the door.
Hmm.
Because after 2 weeks, you're now waiting for new buyers to enter the market. And if all the current buyers have said no to it, what are the odds that a new buyer is going to magically show up on week 3, week 4 and say, hey, this is the right house for us at the right price?
Yep.
Right? I'm not saying it can't happen, yet the odds are very low. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I think one of the things we hear a lot is from agents too is, well, they're not in a hurry, or well, my days on market is increasing in my market, right? And that's why it's so important, Aaron, to go through what you just walked us through, is because it's not about the market, it's about our strategy with the market, and it's also about the understanding from your client, right, from the sellers, of understanding that buyers are making judgment, right? Homes
Mhm.
are still selling. Fair. Just go
Yep,
on
every
your
day.
hot sheet and pull the last 7 days of pendings, right? Properties are still moving. Real estate's not stopping. It's not about the market. It's about you and your strategy, and using pricing as a strategy, and facts trump feelings, right? So giving them the facts so they can come to the best decision.
Yeah, so now we're going to give them clarity on exactly what we need to see for the market to tell us we're either priced right or we've pushed it too far.
That's
Because,
right.
like I said, NAR says 2 weeks, 10 showings. They need a little bit more. They need a little bit more of a story. So we
That's right.
broke it down into 4 metrics. Each week, they need to see these 4 metrics.
Yep.
Number one, 3 to 5 showings per week. And Emily, that's an actual agent bringing a buyer, not just open house activity. It's an actual scheduled showing. You need 3 to 5 per week in this market to have enough. Number two, buyers should be coming back for second looks. Now that we see days on market going up, it's not that frenzied market that we saw a few years back. Right now,
Mhm.
we're back to the normal rhythm that the buyer comes and sees it, and then they come back with their family and they start placing their furniture. Buyers coming back for a second look is a good sign that we're in the market.
Mhm.
Number three, we should be seeing positive feedback from the agents showing it and their clients. And of course, number four, offers or talk of offers. So if we're seeing those 4 metrics, the market's telling us we're in good shape with our price. Now, here's where this is a formula. Are you ready?
Yep.
And let's be clear, this is a formula. Don't mess with these numbers. This is tried and true. This is from all the research NAR has done. If we're seeing some of those metrics, but not all of them. So for example, let's say we're getting good activity, but no one's come back for a second look. The feedback is mixed and there's no offer or talk of offers. The market's telling us we're off by at least 5%. 5%. If we're seeing none of the metrics, it's crickets. No one's, come this week to look at the property. The market's now telling us we're off by at least 10%. So if we're seeing all of the metrics, we're okay. We're priced where we need to be. If we're seeing some of the metrics, but not all of them, the market's telling us we're off by 5%. And if we're seeing none of the metrics, it's crickets, we're off by at least 10%. That's what the market's telling us. It's a formula.
Well, Aaron, does that change? What if it's a $850,000 house? 10% is a lot.
Does not change. It's scientific. It needs a big enough adjustment at 10% if no one's seeing it to put it in front of a new group of buyers, because all the current buyers at that price have said no to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just remember that no feedback is feedback, right? How many of us have been in a property with a buyer and they are super interested, right? The first call that you make is usually to the listing agent, right? Aaron going, hey,
Right.
do you have any other offers? Do you have, my clients are very interested, or you're asking the agent questions, right? Hey, they're really interested. We, curious on the utilities, curious on this, are they flexible on closing date? So remember, we've also been in houses where the buyer is 0% interested, and maybe you've shown them 8 houses that day, right? And you don't want to give feedback, right? Because you're exhausted at the end of the day. No feedback is feedback. They're not interested and they're choosing other properties.
Yeah, you should never call your seller and say, oh, I'm waiting for feedback. No, you don't need to wait. You already know the feedback. Now, getting back to the metrics. So this is black and white. What we've done is we've set clear expectations with the seller so they can look at it and we can look at it and we understand the formula. It's plug and play. It's not, I think, it's not, I feel, it's not maybe. This is the formula, right? Based on, decades of research that we follow on pricing. We know what we do works. The only thing we're testing is the price. And these are the 4 metrics. And based on what they tell us, we'll know what type of adjustment is needed, if needed, right? Based off the activity.
Exactly right.
That simple, Emily. We've taken the pressure off ourselves. It's the market.
Yep. So again, tying a bow on this, when you meet with a seller, right, we're going to know in the first 2 weeks whether we're priced in the market or above the market, right? We're going to know that because we know our marketing works. The only thing we're testing is price. Now, the good news is at day 7, we're going to have really solid data to give us an indicator of where we're at, right? By week 2, we'll 100% know. The 4 things that we are looking to see, 3 to 5 showings each week. This is not open house traffic. This is private showings, private tour bookings. Number 2, positive feedback from agents and their clients, right? No feedback is feedback, right? They're not interested. They're choosing other properties. Number 3, second showings. We are seeing this more now as the market slowed down. And number 4 is talks of offers or an offer. So based on that, we're going to know. And it's our, you're hiring me to sell your home for top dollar. And that's, it's us against the market and figuring out which buyer is going to pay the most amount of money.
There you go. And the last thing I'll say, Emily, is you cannot set this expectation enough. And if for some reason you already have a listing and you didn't set this at the get-go, it's not too late to bring this conversation to the forefront as you're talking about the feedback.
Nope, absolutely. Because you could just easily say, hey, Aaron, one of the things that I tend to look at and look for in the first few weeks of being on the market is this, right? And then you can reset those expectations. So let's set the expectations. Let's get them priced and make the correct adjustments that we need such that you can get them closed.